In English, on page number 11, I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in community, feel bias, attachment, and anger. It is crowned, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the four continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon. I visualize this Buddha filled and offer. May all living beings enjoy the pure nectar. Yedam Guru Nandana Kame.
我也长到了什么这些学习。
Good morning to you all. How are you doing this morning?
근데 단 남지 당당 지내네. 전제지 원진이 많이 된다니지.
We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to meditate, practice meditation of Buddha compassion, and then reciting the mantra of Om Mani Padme Hum.
당 아주 남지네. 통탄이라 샤와니 토미 글롱 때 원들로 토미 글롱 아주 곤조선나 잡선론데 심지어 세와면 시바다. 파면 또나 너무 겨와지니 담자지. 아니 니와 샘질 통어쯤 남라시베 심지 담지게 돈데 냉원버 쪽으로 상기기 인스니 텔은 남바니지니 텔라테네 네 심지 단지 대화동 담버지 등은도 자월지 심지 진짜 먼저 참미지로 소바니 원데 당내네 딱상 탐지 지위는 탐지 기윈 레원로도 탐지 딱배상도 겨서 오세노다 사지 비기 마시도 어떤 증언도 다 남정아도 인도 로다 그렇지.
So, as a tradition, or the very important Dharma practice, and so we do need to emphasize the two most important things. That is the thing which is very critical at the beginning of the practice, and the thing that is very critical at the end of the practice. So what is two most important things at the beginning and at the end are, first of all, let's say that first, what we need to do at the beginning. At the beginning, we must determine or have a very clear motivation, and sets the mind that which determined I wanted to do whatever I can to do something which is beneficial and helpful for others. And at the very least, if I can't achieve this goal of benefits others within my capacity, I at least would not harm anyone whatsoever. So we need to determine or have this mind or set up this very fundamental basic motivation as the basis of our practice. And then on the top of that, as the followers of Mahayana, the great mystical tradition, and then we must generate the mind of enlightenment, the bodhicitta, which is saying that we determined that we want to attain the enlightenment, become with ourselves in order to benefit all sentient beings. So the way we're going to do that is that by the practice which would lead or would place the all sentient being in the position where they can happily enjoy the peace and the prosperities. In other words, we are determined to bring the happiness to all sentient beings. And then, at the same time, we also determined that try our very best to free all sentient beings from the suffering and the causes of the suffering. And then, of course, like we always practice in the at the beginning of our each Sunday morning's Dharma discussion, that just like the 4 immeasurable thoughts, we also determined to and rejoice and all the virtuous actions, deeds that has been committed, conduct by anyone, whoever. So all that the virtuous actions and the practices, and then we wish that the sentient beings are all appreciate and live in a state of unbiased and perfect equanimity. So then we take all this as the basis of our spiritual path, and then we're going to pursue in the Jeta Yoga. In this case, is a meditation of Buddha compassion.
어딘저다 따곰 야르즈도 잔디즈 고물소 당보 잔디즈 간다지 바 티와진 TV 셰럽기에니 요고 삼나가 삼로 코르진 삼로 코르 좀 텔라더니 잔디즈즈나 향지기 랑즈즈 텐데 아니 하키 넘버 샤라지렌도 와즈니 삼로 당네 때임바 숨나 타간로 전에 파소나 삼나서 샤라 샤르규 따랑 마제바지네 아니 잠바트 마영비 이거는 세팅이 샤르트바텔라 다곰 세고르 된자당 알아서 당보네 잔디즈스나 간다지세 하고아지 거의 돈도 삼로 땅 돈도 소송이와 이용을 쏟더니 텔라텐 semni 마지바 지고면서다 잠바 땅 셰럽니 냠 조니 셰럽기 다 줬니 고 그 타주지 용을 쏟다 잠바가 마지와 진짜 점고 된자다 텔라텐네 다바당 쪼아고 다바당 쪼아요는 텔라텐 존지지나 텔라텐 바소치네 티당나바도 인마차 진용토 텔리지 용을 줘 안에랑 진가로 semla 다 기런 하공비 니완 로트베 돈 듣고 요래서 어떠시
So once we set up our build up a very strong, clear, and authentic basis, and then after we started to determined to meditate, engage in the meditation of the Jeta Yoga, and meaning that the Uddhava Avalokiteshvara. And so what we needed to do is that we have to remember to practice or to ensure the great success of our practice of Buddha, of our Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of compassion, that requires us to first of all engage in the process of hearing, or the process of collecting knowledge of this particular practice. That means you have to study, learning, contemplating, right? About anything that's involved about Buddha compassion. So through this hearing process, and then you will become, you will be informed, become very clear that, the Jeta Yoga, the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, meditation of Buddha Avalokiteshvara, I'm going to meditate, and so he is appear to be like this. So you have to obtain or have a clear idea about how the Buddha of compassion looks like, his features, attributes, right? The manner or all the representations, and so on and so forth. So the most importantly, you have to be clear that the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, which I may going to meditate, in fact, is the manifestation or is the actual embodiment of the great compassion itself. So in other words, the great compassion at this point is being manifested, being sort of materialized, if you like, or being appeared, is been appeared like in the form of without compassion. Now, here I'm going to meditate. So, and then you have to clearly contemplating what it is really all about. So after that, then so you need to take yourself and to the point where you have all the convictions, but no any slight doubts, and also you have the greater clarity, right, about what is your approach you're going to do, right, and then you formally meditate or engage in the actual meditative concentration. That is take it Avalokiteshvara as your focal point of the actual meditation, and then have that very object of your meditative focal point objects clearly appear in your mind, right, with a great clarity and stability, and then holds that very object of the meditative concentration without without being distracted or forgotten. So not forgot, and maintain that clear sense of the appearance of the Buddha Avalokiteshvara as it explained, or as you have learned. So have them clearly in your mind, appear in your mind, is very critical. And of course, over the course of this meditation, the wisdom or the realization of the clear understanding, which is against absolutely critical. Why? Because you have this clear understanding and a clear realization about everything that you are going to engage in, and you are actually engaging, that will cut off or free you from all the obstacles or all the hindrance, right? So then you of course you meditate, right? Meditate as you are so sure about, and then in the long run, you have to maintain one essential element or qualities for this practice, that is a faith, a devotion. Faith and or devotion is very essential, because with the faith, with or the devotion, and then you will have the basic qualities of practice, that is joyful perseverance. Right? So now you have the faith, and then your practice being secured, supported, driven by the joyful perseverance, then and you will experience the power, the qualities of the very deity that you are meditating on.
Oh yeah, it's a darn touch on the Chinese tongue in the Tarang. The Mukatong you Tarang, Yokostan, the Semna pass sometimes Muslim donor, Titon Shiro, the Semna Sharkanwa. A shark you took the name Majawach and it Yanji Rangian, something, no gomchin, that similar than you the not the money no it, on the money donating, 때 그러면 그랬잖아. 아니 링의 승부 기회 쇼라 들어서 때 많이 돈비 파윤즈라면 등때 무기소 등하고 여러분치 같이 담바가 샵든 지고 뛰는 알아서 참아 때 잠깐다 야 푸인데 자 아니 아주 참아가 많이 들었을 때뭐 받는데 지네 근데 많이 더에 나로지.
So, as you can see, right in front of me is a statue of four-armed Buddha Avalokiteshvara, the compassion Buddha. Okay, so take a look, or darshan, and the meaning that have a very faithful, clear, sort of a contact with this sacred image. But in your mind, you know, this image is as a reference point. Right? And then what you need to do is you need to meditate on the actual, the emanation or the embodiment of a great compassion self. That's the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, the spiritual enlightened one, the Buddha, Buddha himself. And so when you meditate on the Buddha of compassion, and so you need to try to let that very appearance, okay, the image of Buddha Avalokiteshvara, appear in your mind. So that very appearance, in fact, technically can be called meaning generality. Okay? Meaning generality is your meaning here is the actual, the spiritual being, the Buddha himself. Okay? So generality, that is, so you learn a lot about it, right? Now you have to let that meaning, what you have been informed or you learned, you're so sure about, you're so convinced, then you need that very actual meaning. And in this case, the Buddha Avalokiteshvara's body himself is now it's been vividly appeared in your mind, in your meditation, and then you need to be very collective, be attentive, collective, and be mindful on that very object, on the meditative object, which is the Buddha of compassion. And that's you need to in your mind, okay, or with your mind. Right? In other words, in your mind, with your mind, you hold or you focus on that very emanation of great compassion, Buddha of compassion, and in your verbally, mentally you focus on, you meditate on the Buddha of compassion. Verbally, you reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, the sixth syllable of the Buddha of compassion. And so that this way you are, so like you've been in place, everything is supposed to, at the physical body level is being placed, right? Now mentally, you have already had this clearly vivid image of, a sacred image of Buddha of compassion. And then verbally you recite the Om Mani Padme Hum. And so another thing is about the reciting Om Mani Padme Hum is you while you meditate, and you know that the meditate and recite Om Mani Padme Hum, think of that very the mantra recitation, and actually is being you take such a you do such a practice. It engage actually is you are in the wish, and you are thinking that you want to do so because you wish that this practice, the qualities and the benefits can be dedicated, right, to the longevity of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And maybe you are informed or maybe you're not. And so we are right now in across the world in the Tibetan Buddhist community, and we've been asked to recite Om Mani Padme Hum daily. and as a collective action and wish that and a prayer and the long life of His Holiness the Lama. So you can do so and then dedicate the marriage to His Holiness the Lama's long life.
아, 따도 좋고.
Mantra is on page number 70.
천재 마비 금동걸 도상 제제 완란전 대제 전제 로나즈 자리즈나 상상루 오마느 밤에 오마느 밤에 마느 밤에 마느 밤에 마느 밤에 마느 밤에 마느 밤에 야, 다양. 빨리 가부터 이런 거라. 다 니와
좀 밀치. 좀 밀치.
Okay. Now, I'm afraid we have to challenge ourselves again.
니와 더 몽을 타와. 더 풍남 남이 다들 때문에 비치기나 강석 레리랑 풍보 담아요 바터 강석 담아요 버티죠. 양나 풍보 찍던 절대 강석 찍던 예매비 찍임 비셔스. 되는 머롱때 직발리 그때 풍보 더나 디스트 망위 더때 대또 좀 몽을 찌르죠 시송. 어떤 직송단나 난 거지.
So please go to your copy, translation 124. The consequence of oneself has been many, or is been many. The second fallacy, if the self and the aggregates are of one nature, is that there would consequently be many souls. If the self and aggregates were undifferentiably and indistinguishably one, since everyone has many aggregates, the person would have many souls. Otherwise, because the person is a singular and inseparably one with the aggregates, the aggregates would become one. This is unacceptable. Chandrakirti's supplement says, if the aggregates are the self, since there are numerous, it follows that there will also be many selves.
어다데 아니 nga랑zu 남게 닥세 지시고로 닥세 당 nga랑zu 홍보리 로스 요레 타다 요레지 어다 저와당 홍보당 시기레 홍보당 시기인즈네 렌자게나데 nga세데 홍보리 로스 요 말즈나 다 홍보당 로스 메존나 홍보도 시기인 거고 홍보도 시기인소나 홍보라 담아 요와 나즈네 nga양 담아 요르웨지 다 담아 요고트 그러지 담아 연로근도지 어때서다 아니 nga세데 홍보당 시기나 아니 문득비 타와 nga세데 홍보당 타타이나 문득비 타와니 당을 다 시기나 문득비 타와데 홍보당 식바이나 홍보담아 요와 나즈 nga 담아 로근도 가지 어디서고 나 홍보당 타다이나 가르즈 홍보당 타다이나 홍보가리 마 자니 맞저 디 한치직네 지금 예고 요르다 뜻자네 예기요 말이지 홍보가라 마템비 nga즈 자네 예트기요 말 뜻자다 이차강라 때네 삼로 당가이나 nga랑주 남지 nga 지사첨보지고 nga 뜨네 nga이와 ዝ몽고 제동 nga 남지 섬나 딱시 동도 nga이와 좀이 홍보드네 nga이와 차로 nga 세트 서트 로스 지요로 담보지 데 홍보가라 홍보로지 맞지 홍보 다 nga이와 세트 땅이 홍보 등이 라바 등이 넘버 쇼와 등 시시용으로 된자 데 같은 증이 nga 세지요 오늘 지나 같은 증이 nga 세사첨보도 홍보가 로스요레 홍보가 타타요 다 봉봉가 시기에 다다를 쌈던 거. 다 식당 다다 강 많이 봐. 강 요나 등이 강도 니고 요다. 어때다 시기는 소나 아니 방보 담아 요아노 징 아야 담아 착한데 와. 어다 등이가 등이 방보라 리 럭바던 강바 참 방보 자시로. 어때는 참망이 자시. 어떠셔고. 어때 소나 내가 땅 방보니 덕식바 고 식바로 착송이나 나니 방보도 매와 쳐니 뭐더니 내가 매와 찬도. 어때 소나 그 뭔가 깨워시만 용어서 어떤 어떤 방법 타다에 소나 다들 타다를 설득이 니고 때 니기요 말 된서다 땅아세 된 적당 간도 그래 땅 알아서 남기 요바 랑진지 봐 코로나 스파지 요 삼bat데 요 말에 스타 딱비 딱좀 그 인직도 명난 좋고 요던 좋다 소나다 리코다 때 삼동 거 스타 때 인드는 아주 삼동 거 그렇지.
So we are talking about the three fallacies, right? And now it's in this case, the second fallacy is deal with the mistaken perception or the wrong belief, the ideas that we are our identity with respect to who we really are, what we are, if we ask the question, and if we're concerned about our identity. So ask the question, what we are. We as a human being, and obviously we always say I or self, myself, person, and we identify something that's about our identity. So in Buddhist Buddhism, and technically, it's about it's self. So we can say that our self is person, a self, right? There is some kind of identity, so which we believe we do have a strong belief in it. So now we need a question about our belief with respect to of who we are or what we are. What do we mean by I? When we say I, or when you claim, right? You say, oh, I'm here, or it's me, or myself, and you need to pay attention to see, just like the text said, you need to see what that mode of that I is, or self is, and me, that you claim, or you try to sort of state it about it. Is that I, or you yourself, I, me, and yourself is something separate from the aggregates, or it does exist in terms of the mode of existence. How does it exist? Right? Existing. So that yourself is something separately, sort of autonomously exists, and it's on power, or by its own characteristic, or it is not. So you need to examine and challenge your very own assertion with respect about yourself as a person or your identity. Because the I got to be, the very I you claim, you're asserting, got to be either is separate from it, the aggregates, that is the basis of designation, the basis of your own basis of designation in this case. So when you say I, is that I yourself is separated from the basis of the designation, the five aggregates, or it is something absolute one with the basis of your designation, that the 5 aggregates. If you say, oh, I myself is a separate entity in relation to the 5 aggregates that constitutes me, then his claim should lead you to the point where you can point out yourself truly is a separate entity. You can clearly point out, say, look, this is me, and this is the 5 aggregates, which of course, in this case, you cannot do so. You can't find such a thing, because it is essentially, after all, is unfindable. Without relying on, meaning that without relying on or depend upon the basis of your own 5 aggregates, there's no way you can point out a separate, independent self, which is exists and its own by its own characteristic. Okay, so that is clear. Now, if your assertion, let's say I, me, or myself, somehow it suggests that it is indeed something one, absolutely one with your 5 aggregates, the aggregates that constitute you, then the logical, the only logical conclusion you would find that you yourself is not being a single person, but rather is a multiple. You are not a one, but you are many, right? When you say I, and so that you are referred to actually is not a one person, but a many person. Why? Because your 5 aggregate is a multiple entity. So you've got to be a multiple individual, so there's no single. You are not a single individual, which of course is the fallacy, is mistake. And in this case, again, the problem is if you are one with the 5 aggregates, and so when you're looking and you have to find, just like you have many. Even we just focus on the form, right? One of the aggregates, that's the form, which is the basis of one of the bases of the basis of the designation of you as a person. Let's focus on our physical body. Just like if you say I and my the 5 aggregates in this case is the form as being a one, right? Absolute one, then that will lead you to the further problem, okay? And just like you know that you have a head, right, and the arms and the hands, right, and the fingers, right, and all kinds of parts of your body. So then yourself would be becoming even much more, right, multiplied much more. Why? Because you claim that you and your body is one, right? So, but your body obviously is being constituted or comprised, made of many different parts. And that's, again, the clearly indicates that very claim or assertion regards your self-identity, you as a person or self-individuality being with your own form body. The form of the body is one, rather is not acceptable. Of course, this I, if it's absolute one, and with it constitutes anything that constitutes you, or that you use as a reference to identify you as an individual person, and then further will lead you to another unsolvable problems. That is, you cannot say from if you believe that you and your constituents the things that you anything that they constitutes you, or you use as reference to point out to yourself, then you cannot say mine. You always have to say I, but not mine, right? My car or my cup or whatever, and or my body, my 5 aggregates. You cannot do that. So we have the relationship again here is a very problematic. In other words, our assertion, our claim about our individuality, our self-identity is very problematic. Is because if you think that you as person I, and the relation between you as person and the 5 aggregates as some kind of evidence, right? Or material sort of evidence by which you can make such a claim, then what you are doing is basically you're showing that you as individuality is like a boss or like a head of some kind of organization, and your 5 aggregates that you use as a kind of a materialized or tangible physical evidence, right, to prove you are absolutely existent or inherently exist, then the relationship between you and your body is like the head of the organization and the subject, right? So this relation of you being the head or the boss and the rest of your the bodies and your anything that you use as reference to prove your existence is kind of like a boss versus a master versus a servant, right? Which of course we know that's not the case. And again, so that again becomes sort of you and your anything you claim as a mine or your belongings, you possessing, right? Possess your possessions and you, and it cannot be one. Or has to be one, but it cannot. It's not. Why? Because the relationship actually is show that because in your mind that you as a boss, your body or any components of your body is been like served as like a servant, right? So that shows that they are not really the absolute one, but rather is the completely separate entities. So anyway, our problem is that we have this strong grasp in the self of person, and to sort of then attach to we as a single inherently existing individuality, and whereby, and then we attach to the things, events, or ideas that we believe that's related to us or under our own control. Then we claim mine, or my positions, or my ideas, and so on and so forth. So we just in this sort of unsolvable, confused, mistaken, trapped in this the confused relationship between the whether we are separate to we as individuality as a separate entity from the body, or we as individual person as a one, absolute one with our body, anything that we claim as ours, right? And so the thing is that if we claim we are one with our anything that we claim is ours, then we will become many, right? So we are not individual. We cannot no longer assert I am one individual. I am just single individual. I'm one person. And you cannot say that you are one, but you are multiplied. You are multiple entities. And then if you say you are multiple entities, then you know that the further the problems being created, right? And one of the problems is that the end of the life of those entities or those building blocks of you as individuality, when they are terminated, and you as individuality is no longer survive, which of course is leads you to the nihilism. So anyway, as a spiritual practitioner, and of course in this context as the followers of this particular system from the Dhyamika, and in Mahayana Buddhism, we have to learn how to correctly establish the clear and correct and the understanding or the view or idea about ourselves or who we are, what we are. We need to kind of take that very idea of me, a person, right? Or me, to know how to kind of designate you, if you will, or how to place this very idea correctly. So yes, so we have this like idea about me and well, I actually is about when I say when I call myself, actually I'm referred to my consciousness or my mind, right? As some of the Buddhists would arguing, right? That's how they establish their philosophical view concerning the self-identity or self of individual, self of person or individuality. So anyway, we have to know how to place correctly or establish the selfhood that is free from all the fallacies.
다 선바 덕긴지 전 탈와는 강서치기 봉봉합시 긴지시에 바따르 강서경 지지시기라 랑진지 드비 긴지 셰비치 랑진치 등 타이틀 강롱리 만다상 데니까 머르데 데르랑기 찬이지 드비 랑진치나 첸드 등 합시니 다오용 드남 예던 메비 치든 여성 데터나 첸드 강서 다오 데 ngalut rang tang ye chi zog shor ma song re jirjang che shimi gangzog nami ten me bi shir chigin bi shir na rang tang ye chi bi che ngap shi gangzog ta u de ma shi wor ndar ke wor jirde chen de gangzog tang nami ten me bi chigin bi shir der tar na marong de ta pran jir bi shir wo sa shi li ka de la de ma de na der tar na na The
consequence of the self being created and destroyed. The third fallacy, if the self and the aggregates are of one nature, reveals the consequences of the selves being created and destroyed. Just as the aggregates which are asserted to be the same as the person are created at the birth and destroyed at the death. So too would the person have to be created and destroyed. When that is created and destroyed exists inherently, the person and aggregates will not be anything other than one of the same or different natures. And yet, both of these would be unacceptable. So, if they were inherently the same, which established by way of its own characteristics, it would be as if the person of this and the previous life were the same without the distinction. If that were the same case, and you and the continuity of your previous life were the same, a person would have been born in this life without having died, because he would be inseparably one with the person you are in this life. It is unreasonable to make such a statement because the person would then be permanent. The fundamental treatises called Wisdom's Test, if that God were born as this man, such a person would be permanent.
단 니 가르세 고즈나 진주 전도 타와드네 아니 홍보당 찍던 타다 간호도 켈린 지고군도 와 나세데 요르와즈 요나 나세데 랑진지 드바즈 요나 나세데 요나 홍보다 시인세고 양나 홍보다 타다이세고 이 잠발이 결혼 루비 다시 동사 요 말이지 다 홍보다 시인세 당나 아니 네 단다가 렘비 밀리든데 동 아니 직바인 랑지 직바인나 니 린드 메바 차송나 디 카트 텔라다 나트 메와 차송아 레베스 어다 타와지온 거 지고를 진나 겨왕아만이 실용 심만이 겨와셔 되게 말다스 든지가 말이지 어때 말에 나 겨와심만이 내용을 내용의 내기에는 든가 지인지 떠나 나세 랑진지 드바다가 만지바 직바인지 떠나 나세 딱바 탄로르스 딱바 찬로르스 근데 머딱 베랑지 바테 켈린드 노르노레스 텐자 디타와 니고니 아니 줍스 땅니 땅다 삼당고 땅아세데 펑볼로 치리 타다레스 타단다 펑볼도 치기나 그지 땅아 단당아
It's 11 o'clock.
단당아 가 미인세지 그라 가 미인세데 땅아세 땅아 미인세드니가 캬브리 요요 말았으니 따티 삼당고 따가 미인바테 겨와시마니 용에나 겨왕아마 미인고고 어때 니와요 말아 답변은 하니 세편이 미겨와지나 겨왕아마데 코사이 릴라테니 코사세티 망따가 세들라 미 리틀 렘바인사 콜라 미스니 망따가 대자 가 미땅아 하니가 임바 응갈와리 대자다 셴나마스 도르디스 퐁봉아오 딱점기 퐁보 드바테 리키 넘버만 비고니 드비용 tel라 아니 퐁봉아 초비 때그런다 넘버 시와 드비용을 써도 때 리튼도 강식 고 기로나 디 넘버 tel라 아니 그 tel라 때비 nga지 드비용 nga타 tel라 다지 기르비 하이 리틀라 드나 nga라스니 미 리튼도 나 미즈니 어떤 도지 기르비 인 드지 기르비 nga세지 요아데 nga로즈 뇽이 지남 초리 공니다 용고 때다 디 파타돈 짠에서나 뭔가 딱점지 마도 니트고 말이지. 단 노르디나 시고 때때 알아 소소 다시 당을 리필함니 다시 당을 때서 참이 그래서 갈리 가고다리다 이나 노르로데 단 넘바 상기위 기던 거니 사리 노지로 때서 갈리 가고다.
So now we need to deal with this idea again, the fallacy of with respect to the relationship between our identity and with the rest of the world, particularly and with regard to your birth and your death, or something about your life in general. We know that we claim we are someone who, at a certain point in the past, was born. Right? So we have a moment, a particular time, and that confirms that we were someone who was born. Then we know at some point in the future, in the distant future, we will be dead. So birth and death, right? It's kind of the two landmarks or critical moments. That is something we claim, and not only claim, we know from our experience, and it's something that's it's there. Well, then take it as a this reality, right? And as this scenario, right? This the reality, the scenario in mind, and then bring yourself or place yourself in the actual sort of this situation and this circumstances of birth and the death, and then see how you fit in, how you fit into this situation, right? Because you say, I was born, I will be die. So then I is there, your I is there. So your I with the birth, regard to the moment of birth or the birth in general, was the something that's the common absolutely as one entity, right? Or as a absolutely separate entity. Because if you say you were born with your birth and you as absolutely the same entity, then that will lead you to a lot of unsolvable problems, and will put you in the position where you see things yourself is being very contradictory. You have to deal with a great deal of various contradictions. Similarly, if you deal with, if you say I myself is an absolutely separate entity from my birth, similarly, the same situation will occur, same problem will occur, meaning that you will find yourself in the very contradictory, with greater contradictions, and those unsolvable problems. So the consequences of you claim my birth is identical, and it's absolutely one thing, or I and my birth is absolutely a separate, unrelated entity. So you have to, in both cases, you have to have to deal with the consequences, right, that you created with by making such a claim. And so, yes, the thing is here, the reality, the thing is, as soon as you claim you as individuality, right, a person, someone, then you are naturally being put, your own assertion or recognition naturally puts you in a position where you have to claim or asserting that you are one with your very, in this case, like a birth, with the one with your body, one with your birth, or you have to say you are someone who is completely a separate entity from your birth, right? You cannot find anything as yourself that is neither one with the birth nor with the separate with from the birth, right? Then there's no third category. So you are in between these two, either one with the birth or separate from the birth. If you are someone separate from the birth, then you have to, if you say you are the one, absolute one with your birth and you are identical as a person, then of course you cannot claim that your previous lifetime. Okay, you cannot say in my previous life and I'm so and so. Why? Because you were just born, you and your birth is identical. However, if you say, no, that's not the case. I and my birth are completely, absolutely a separate entity. And then you will be, this assertion will lead you to another trap. That is, you have to claim you as a person is a permanent, or you are a permanent entity. Why? Because you are here and you were before, you have been the same, so you never ever change it, right? But the reality, you'll be changing. You are a permanent. Your basic nature is impermanent, not permanent. It's impermanent. Okay. So therefore, when you say I, right, it's then you cannot claim that you are something or someone is changeable, is changing, is changed, but rather is the only thing you have to claim or admit is that you never ever change. You are not changing at all, right? But that's not the case, right? So we have to know that they solve here some kind of a subtle but interesting theoretical, philosophical, actually is conceptual questions that you say, just like we say all the time, right? We say I, we claim I, we say that pronouns that were I, and then immediately say as a person, right? Or as a man, let's say. Okay? You say I as a man or human being. I am a human being. So look at this. You are saying two things, I and human being. Right? Well, now you have to take a sort of one step back and look. Right? Then look back at what you just have said. I am a human being. So you as being a person, now you say you are a human being. So what's really going on? You as human being, you and a human being, you as human being is a one, right? It has been this way, right? All the time. Is it something that's fixed? is absolute. When you challenge yourself, you say, I am a human being. In fact, it's the claim you made is very problematic. Okay, particularly if you think that that is the case, and that's for sure, that's absolute. Again, that this very claim is kind of that I am a human being is reality, and that reality is owns some kind of autonomous status, or it's operating by its own characteristic. Then you are essentially say, I'm a human being, and I was human being, right? So then you are always human being. You, as I, and the human being is the one, right? So therefore, you never ever change. There's no room, no way for you to claim, say, oh, I was in my previous lifetime, I was divine being, I was a god in the celestial, in heaven, something like that. Or you can say the third person, whoever's claim he is a human being, but then he cannot say, in my previous lifetime, I was born and lived in the heaven. I was a celestial being. You cannot do that. Why? Because you are a human being now, you are not a god anymore, right? God and a human being are not the same entity, right? So this is a kind of an interesting and also subtle, but definitely is something we have to carefully consider. Now let's back to the actual point of our spiritual needs. The purpose of our spiritual discussion to make effort in such a philosophical discussion. That is, we bring this, right, philosophical questions and examine these theoretical claims is because we have to clearly find out the mistakes we made or we're making, so whereby and we can free ourselves from this mistaken concepts, and then whereby we can avoid the consequences that follows that very misperception with respect of who we are, or the misperception of self of person. Because we know when we say, I'm a human being, what you essentially say is that you are pointing out your status, or your the present status quo is the consequences of your previous karmic deeds, right? So you've been here now as a person, a human being, basically is because the way how you live, right? You have the unique and different stats of the five aggregates or the entities, depending upon which then you claim you as a human being. And then the continuation of this, the base which you created, right? That's again the five aggregates we're talking about. So we say we are human being. Our experience confirms we are because we have this unique, special status, or the body or the circumstances. So we have the reason to say we are a human being. But this human being, in us, or who we are, we have to know, and for the spiritual practice, the purpose of our spiritual practice or enlightenment, the purpose of enlightenment, we have to know that you got to understand that it's been designated entity, right? Even you experience, say, yes, I'm here, human being, right? You have this unique karma created status, which you live with. But when you try to examine it and to determine the actual relationship between you and your status quo or your whatever the karmic condition for you are, in fact, if you critically approach your identity and then the thing that you will reach, or the point where you will lead you, your exam will lead you to is that you can't find the absolute self, even though that's in the normal circumstances, it appears to your mind is something kind of absolutely there. So this is the Buddhist position. This is the reason that the Buddhism and teaches and to practice this kind of a theory, because through this practice, and then you can clearly, you have the hope, you can clearly develop or establish a mistaking-free sense of your individuality, by which, and depend on which, then you can further to engage in the practice of the Buddha Dharma, and then you will attain your highest spiritual goal that you aim to attain or to achieve.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Questions.
So, any questions for me, please?
Reaching the ultimate self, do we then keep spreading out information and helping, or are we free, like an arhat?
你记得的阿拉哈兹的这个，
我在想，
could you repeat about how they relate to the arhat? I'm sorry, I was paying attention to the words you said arhat, then what about the first part?
Well, in, like, say, Theravada, they would say the ultimate, Buddha taught that the ultimate was to shit, and then you're free and your work is done. Or is the answer to realize the ultimate self, to then continue on living like the Bodhisattva?
Oh, okay. I see your point. Okay. Really? And in Theravada, the Pali canon in Chiche de what number the Suvi? Basically, was it Jato be compounded Tovena, that she made you, Gia made you so. And Jato Batches about that, this Eva, that drug just say you decided to us. 이런 남각이 어떤 특징이 이 냐면 지금 소위요. 어떤 이 말에 있다. 다세디 매버디 도세디 지라 네 상지지 공부는 그녀의 인스는 그것이 그제도 이 그녀 라사다 말라서니 가이나서 그렇지.
집당 가서 드바세들 닝이지 지고 묘모이 드바도 시시 드바세 다 묘모이 드바티 가나도 겨와렘 바티 용고다 겨와랑네 코라라 콘근데 묘모이 드비 한고 묘모 마리병글레 상리 양것네 나면 겨와 드왕 동서 아니 묘모이 드바티 용스도 딱 송하나 겨와랭 말다 등기 코라라 코르고 말때 다좀비 콘팡데 다세데 다싱 좀 바시 다좀비 다테 묘모라 ngi te 좀 송나 묘모 매와 차송나 때고 겨와한 거 겨와 전에 겨와 말텐다 때 시위양 라베 냠버정니 가와네 겨와데 네데 그래서 다 탁반침부 시험으로서 다 좀비 콤보도 송나 소소랑일다 된 드기다 orda 때 잠즈긴 드고 말에 때는 아주 시시드 바세데 빵고고래 시드바트 빵 마트면 그런 심진 탐지기 젠둔시고 요래 젠둔시발라 시시드바 빵고래 담아도 탐지기 심진 감당미와나 시트고 마틴스다 시드바 빵고 시드바 빵고 시발라 다저버 고모토 바진 조금 말해 아니 바로 드신 바트라 장고고래 어떤 장이 올서 아니 돈이 타신 바지 고래다 다저버 고모토 나랑 돈 타신 바래 다 요모 다 참도 빠인서 수 롱 토바르들 그런 젠둔 터신 토요 말했어. 젠둔 터신 벌써 발라 상지지 공방 토고 그래서 어때 잡아놓들.
Okay. Well, disregard the subtle philosophical difference, philosophical view. The differences between the philosophical, between Theravada and the Mahayana. Let's say, and they put aside the philosophical, the subtleties of the philosophical argument between these two traditions within the Buddhist world. And here, what I like to offer is that the key difference between the Mahayana and the Theravada or the non-Mahayana Buddhist tradition is this. Essentially, in the Mahayana, it is believed that there are two obscurations as an individual Buddhist practitioner has to overcome. In other words, every Buddhist practitioner, Buddhist has to sooner or later has to overcome or eradicate, manage to free from the two obscurations. The one obscuration is the obscuration of defilements. And the second obscuration is the obscuration to the knowledge. So first, obscuration or obscuration of knowledge, the obscuration of defilement or negative emotions, simply speaking, is the main thing, and one has to, in terms, one has to overcome. One have to overcome this obscuration. Why? Because this obscuration, defilements, or negative emotion, is the key force that forces you to repeat the patterns of the death and the rebirth, which we call the samsara, right? Meaning that as long as you are not free from or be able to overcome the obscurations of defilements and negative emotions, and then you subjected to the death and the rebirth over and over. So now bring the Arhat, the conversation about Arhat in. Arhat is someone, by the power of his own practice, his successful Dharma practice, then he or she were the one be able to successfully overcome the first obscuration. That's the obscuration of the defilements or negative emotions, whereby Arhat don't have to reborn again. They are free from the rebirth. So at the point he or she achieved, become Arhat. In fact, Arhat in Tibetan called the Datrumba. Da is a four. So four is all kinds of negative emotions. At the point he or she, the practitioner, the dedicated practitioner, who will be able to successfully, entirely be able to destroy or vanish or root out the afflictive emotions or negative emotions, then he or she stay in the state of ultimate reality of peace. So then he or she will never ever need to be reborn. So that is Arhat, what Arhat achieved, which is remarkable. Why? Because he or she no longer be the subject of rebirth and death and rebirth, samsara. Now, again, from Mahayana point of view, just become Arhat by destroying or root out, absolutely eradicates all the defilements, negative emotions, which is not enough, because you haven't accomplished the highest spiritual attainment, that is Buddhahood. So in order to attain the Buddhahood, you have to free yourself from the second obscurations, that is obscuration to the knowledge. So, and why you have to free yourself or eradicate the second obscuration to the knowledge, that is because if you're not able to free yourself or completely root out the obscuration to the knowledge, you cannot achieve the purpose of others. By the way, so two obscurations that you need to abandon or you need to completely free from, and then so just become Arhat is that you fulfill within the two. There's there are two obscurations, but they also have two purposes. One purpose is the purpose of self. Become Arhat means you are successfully achieved the purpose of self, meaning that now all you need, right, anything that concerns you as individual self has been taken care of. So that means the purpose that you fulfilled, you completely fulfilled is just for yourself. So therefore, within the two purpose, you only fulfill the purpose of self, but you haven't yet fulfilled the second purpose, that is the purpose of others. So in order to fulfill the purpose of self, of others, you have to overcome the problems of obscuration to the knowledge. Why you have to do so is because as a bodhisattva, your goal is to address, to help out, right? And to show the path and offer all the techniques, right? All the means, and help them to overcome their own, whatever the sufferings they are experiencing and the causes which brought the sentient beings in a particular suffering, troubled circumstances. So since you wanted to address each of them, help out every sentient being, and guide them to attain the enlightenment, the state of enlightenment, then you have to have the ability, have to have the wisdom that can clearly see each individual's unique circumstances and causes of their circumstances, and each individual's temperaments, interests, and karmic relations, and their potentials, and so on and so forth. So to see clearly, right, and then help them accordingly, it requires the perfect wisdom. The perfect wisdom requires you to dedicate the practice of 6 paramitas, right? And then by the means of 6 great perfections of wisdom, the paramitas, then you not only are able to achieve the self-purpose, fulfill the purpose of self, but now you are successfully able to achieve the purpose of others. So whereby you can be in the position to help out all others. So that's the key differences, and that's also related to the questions in the why the Arhat, the difference between Arhat and the Bodhisattvas.
Okay. Okay. Short.
Well, I understand that logically is contradictory. Not possible to have one and many same time. It's not possible to have birth and death or permanent at same time on one person as characteristic. However, I have 2 examples to show sometimes it is possible. For example, when a projector is projecting movie on a white cloth, a waterfall movie, there are a lot of manifestation or phenomenon projected on that white cloth or waterfall movie. If you turn it off, it's still the same white cloud or water movie. It's like a raindrop that reflects the world. So it seems different. It is just one. The second example is related with time. So consider a cup of water is no taste today. Tomorrow you put some salt, it's salty. The next day you put some sugar, it's sweet. Though the manifestation is different, the characteristic is different, it is the same cup of water over time. It's like Buddha during the process. He was a normal enlightened being, and then Arhat, Bodhisattva, Buddha. So it's the same Bodhicitta mind, or the same kind of mind that get evolved, have different characteristics over time. But that same mind could be there. So it's my counter argument.
Yeah, good.
Avatar.
Yeah.
Now, as translator, I think I find the true enemy. That's very interesting. Yes. Okay. Mortgage checking only down to me, and last year, Yamana, Suzuki, Pumbo chicken quarters, and the Yamana Kakachi quarter, you might also say Yamaris. 아니 이 regular 통에 중생 통제나 문제 대화하고 이제 얘기치나 다들 맞아야 아니야 이나요 나랑 그냥 통에 아니 뉴욕에 있을 통에 네디 페이나스네 도와서야 지금 쉬어요스 니티나 아니 그 집바이 바데 요요카데 얘기를 세긴 바이나当我们看签约不同的这位呢，签约不同的大家的嘛的把持掉吧，把持excuse me, ma'am, did you use the waterfall, right? You said one example you use the waterfall, correct?
It's similar with the white cloth. It's just a special movie. You project things on the waterfall as screen. It's basically a screen. You get it?
Well, you use the screen, the waterfall on the screen.
Yeah, the waterfall as a format of screen. But that doesn't matter. It's just a screen.
Oh.
A white cloth with the work screen.
Like a clock,
I mean white cloth.
according to
Yeah, a
the
screen basically, like a movie screen. It's white, right?
oh clock, okay. 아니 담발 이케는 dakte도 이게 그 주례하게 아니 뭐는 그 좋아하다고 주면은 지 additional 네 step 세시지 쇼지아 담발 때 열어와
That's all.
so because there's a wave and I hear echoes and then between you and me so anyway let me try my best 디지털 뭐 담발 뭐 그게 좋아하는 세월도 지지지 않는 게 나는 초보마 제제
이 목이
뭐 죄송한 거 좋아해
목이 대대로 시계서 딱 갈라버렸다. 넘버 잘라지가 넘버 만들어지와 대대로
이제 너무 삐데
페나
뭐게 지금 같이다 스크린 클럽 요가
페나티다
스크린 클럽
페나 레카오 당 데모다서 레카오라게 레카오가 아니 데모 가리 때마이나 다디 추바추로이나 가리나 마데모나 코나 레카오레 다이나 데모가나야 코 레카오디 추디가 주루다 다디 나바치야가 마부지 주루다 나바 무 주루다 앞에나 목지나 추지나 목지 추지 차루나야 추디 차추체나야 나무나 추디가 주체나 야 얘가 추디 목나 추지여 뭐도 나바 무 주루도 알아 이러시
这是
对，这去你不去，这
너무 주루도
对你你做啥子呢？现在我你做卡这里，加了那路为那个的俺们的卡尼，公安部当呀，你做啥把现在你查出来是路为那个查出来我一点，我当时个转来了没多少，那是。
그다 쳤던 아주 그 니와 머딱베랑지 맞던 저보라 머딱베랑지 자 단다 공고 칠라베랑네 파쇼데 레카오가라 담모템베고 텐종고 돈시고 텐진 종아에서 파쇼텔라네 파쇼티 레카오티 남바스쇼티 저롱수고 치기 나지도 시랑 거 땅가 좀 제도 처위 거라 텐진 종아를 치근가라 단다 차그던 치성데 디 제질 건거 니위 건거 좀 뜻정 텐종 담딱 베톤트나 땡기다 나로도 미 코랑이나 나나 나로도 미세드 나세드 그치그레 더말이야 내가 나세드 컨트롤링에 들어서 밑에 컨트롤 사고도 세
미신아 그리셔 디 좋아하는 저기 다방이 담방이 그 지지지였단 말이야 뭐는 그게 말이야 뭐 해야 돼 리디 조금인도 와서 문주위가 딱 산들이 지금 하다 가면 인도에서 그 말했어 괜찮잖아 리고 지기 찬이잖아 소리 이당 지기 찬이 니 손으로 쳐요 지기 찬이 해봐이나 아니 너네 관계 리가고 되니 그 너네 가르쳐봐이나 이 남자 쉐리 왔다이나 쉐사게 지보나 이 리가고 돼 기발이 왔어 조금도 왔어 이 지기 찬이 문제와 지어가 되겠어 다 뒤지 찬이 제가 노치라고 지나치고 가요나고 디나라 차도나 그 차출에 아니 나무는 나무 그 자면 뭔가 자리 이나야 그 이 지디 고 차오당 나무당 가이나 좀 거다 노치 파랑랑 잘 봤어. 이 영문 좀 치고 대땡이 됐어.
알로 때다 거 가지고 된종부터 시작으로 된종세는 때는 종아담으로 쓰는데 된종고 돈때 나만 탐지 아니 고 저와메워래 때는 종아담이 봐 때는 종아 때라 때는 저와 나도 동거 쓰는 아주 샘기 진이기 오와라 랑진기 진이기 랑진기 샘기 오데 오사와래 세고다 진이기 오데 오사르다 드마 로로 건가 근데 나만 나도 따인 걸 쓰는데 저다가 레가 오데 코로 진이기 오를 벤춘 주지는 샘기 랑진 오마 차다 다 텔라테니 텐종 강 파쇼 그 텔라테니 트베 낭진 아롱도 미미 세데라 제동 샘지 진이데 랑진기 오사와다 딱빠지 딜라 좀 마딱 배운 그때 용사다 디기당 아로도 디드크 소라몽도 양고요레스 어떻게 거 된자다 때 사무 십드 땅에나 텐종 그 돈트 시기요레스 노르디우샤나 다때 디조 몽고시 제트먼도 다때 키 예문 가져 말때 나타 왔다 그런 게 란게 버때 세조 가다 키트 셰스다 미트 여주트 셰스군가 야 어드나다테 란 포코모드 공다지 자쇼 tamato tap시비 그때 nga tanda kondo ya
이 테마가 미리 윤노티 리뷰로 미 고안한다.
예, 뭐 저거 저걸 하고 있어.
tamba ji jesukta moto
자, 그거 리
ta tamba jesukta ka klota ki tam sukta ya ki tangi te lat pa jesukta
Oh yeah. Okay, so I apologize. In my translation, I think I failed to translate it correctly because there's an echo and other things. So when we put Tamba, let's go to translate it for you, okay?
this is a little difficult I'm talking to you talking
긴 거싱이 뭐 투자면
된종 돈 레스 된종 돈 샘기 트마 샘기랑 올사와 세진도가 대구엘에 섰다 단다 리가 호텔에 빌란데 코스 바로 샘기 진이 때랑 여러요 말이지 이나 띠강라테네 니 저만은 로로와 샘기 녀모 원거는 알아도 남바나 좀 용대요 알아도 데디크 초라망한 용도 어때 그런 것들라 리강을 파악하는 샤워나지 찾기 오래지 어때 인사때 디게 된종 것도 삼로 욕고 땅나 적당한데 치기 내린 거마데 말씀 좀 해지고 데리다 지게 다 따라 세트기요 어때 싸우지 좋다
주기다 제진의 주대는 하나 어디
샘기랑진 샘기랑진 뭐 일기때 좋다며 말이지 지게 다 따라 요를 매서 세트 좀이래서 선지 말씀 좀 해서 이나 샘기랑진 때다 레가오테 펠레랑베나 벤춘로들이지 따텔라테니 파소 원인 로담을 때는 수시랑한테 된종고 돈데 송고 녀모 원게 때 나로 나만 좀 나온 거지.
So so Gisela, I don't know we understand what you said, but we both tried to explain in Tibetan to Gisela, and this is what Gisela said. The object of the screen is like the nature of the mind, and 심지랑 신레스라.
샘기랑 오사와서 지금 누가 때 조메레스 요땅 메땅 찌땅 타다 시간세 그 말이지.
And it is the nature of the mind, and which is inexpressible, and it is not like being here or nor like visible and non-visibles. But whatever it's been projected on the screen it's the interdependence.
어떤 지도 단위병 가로 단위 공존은 따직당 타다 강들 르보고라.
Like interdependence, which shows
또
the
묘모 리용
because of the manifestation of the negative minds.
You understand?
Impressive. I got that.
马也不是了，你这跳动作的啊？
nature
这个
当你写的话，可能话，但确实你怕写着。I talk about the nature mind. This look like wet cream. They you bad mind, the emotion they making something good way, bad way, and it look like the movie. That's some you exactly you understand your pure mind. Now you quickly can be the good. We don't understand this. We what this not easy description. Nature mind.
Yeah, we took the projective thing as
Yeah,
real.
you
That's
picture there's you look water, 1 cup of water. Water is pure. It's water, always pure water. They usually you put salt, they salty. You sweet. They always change. This mind never change. Nature mind never change. We look like our person also. Nature mind no change. They you angry, bad mind coming. Your person is an angry person. You look at bad action. You attachment anger comment they also they change this color look like attachment. This person also look like everything body speech everything order. They make different way. Nature mind is always pure. Understand?
It's nature mind.
We have nature mind. We have nature mind. We don't understand. Yeah, we always looking for nature mind. This is our main. We say we lucky. Why we have a nature mind? Buddhahood. We can Buddhahood. We know nature mind. We never can Buddhahood. We have seed. This is Buddhahood. This pure. The pure the inside make it no knowledge bad mind making everything dirty. You look like your water also pure water is pure. Then you make it inside many different dirty. Put there black color different change. You look at this or this dirty water. Usually water is pure. They make something disturb the dirty. Similar ours the nature. Buddhahood have seed. We bad mind everything cover. Now we angry. That's it. You usually look at some person. You first way look at this person. Look at this very person beautiful. Everything perfect. You something you angry something. Or look at this person change. Or this I don't like it. Why this? Everything make mind. I think yeah. This is my opinion. I'm translate. I talk about the exactly doing translator. That's problem. Yeah, my shares my knowledge. Yeah, this Tenzin think or his also think mind or maybe this is not correct. I might answer this one. This is not correct. Correct, not correct. This doesn't matter. This is my knowledge. Okay. Yeah. Citizen. Terung shan ko pa ko te tetang terung shan de jura te ta da ko pa ki sansman ro nda te sansun ro te la te jin da suda ge shan te jin te mol la psa ta
Did the Kishiman told you that all donation will go to Tanzania?
No,
no I'm talking about now
now,
to la te
today.
the pre ro na ta de yukuri 산소나 강을 지고라 대 로제 대 다가도 막을 된 로제가 맨 산도 손에 만다 지 칼라를 된데 산도 줘야지 어떻게 해서 가나
They donations and the donation will go to the people who are suffering so it's all go to the medications and the food. So Denzima and he will be visiting Ukraine or Poland,
이걸 말다 이걸 대 산도 말아
maybe the border of Ukraine, Poland.
Poland.
Yeah,
Poland, yeah.
Poland.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. So just repeat what Timpa said. All the donations today online and in the temple will be going to Tenzin, who is going to Warsaw to help with the Ukrainian war efforts.
Thank
So
you, Tenzin.
medicine and yeah. Thank you, Tenzin. So.
또 좋다.
Okay, closing prayer on page number 80.
Nam de Jave Wambo Danger De Mason Be Be Yang Ji Se Bi Ji Song Dang Bi Re Ba Gong Sang Dang Ji Ye Ne De Bi Ya Nam Ni Shi Shong Ge Che Zhen Do Bi Lang Ye Xu Zhang Zi Wei Zhang Wei Tang Gui Zhou Wei Ye Ji Men Ba San Xi Ya Wei Dang Ba Ye Rong Zhen Zhi Ba Ren Chen Chou Gui Ma Jiu Qiao Jiang Yang Ber Zhi Wei Shou De Nyang Ji Shen Bo Ya Ru Zhou Ba Yi An De 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 Sa Wer Shi Per Shou Jie Jia Wei Ma Xiong Zhen Li La Zhe Shang Qiu Lang Jie Ren Bei Jiang Tan Lu Nam Jie Yu La He De Shang Ya Wen Za Ba Rang De Zhong Ji Lam Zang Zhe Bei Ten Jian Zhe Xi Zhang Jian Se Xi Me Dang Me Men Cai Re Gan De Ya Wei Nga Ba Yi Nam Da Lang Dang Zhe Wer Ma Ni Ji Zhe Ta Ba Qiu La Ji Zhu Ce Zhen Zhe La Zong Ba De Yi Te De Nam Ji Da De Zhou Xi Zhang Zha Xi Yang Zu Shou Gen Jia Bi Ji Lama Rinpoche, Daso Nyingar Pame Tangshi Na, Katen Chenpo Guni Jizong, Kasong Teki Ngidru Zandu So, Shangchu Sencho Rinpoche, Marchi Banu Jijir Wa Nyamba Me Per Yang, Kondi Konde Pewar Sho, Kanra Ravi Kurvi Shankam, Pendant Dewa Malin Jongwi Ne Shadri Zhan Tenzin Yanzo Yi Shepe Sente Parte Tengir Ji Chitar Kemba Tang Kanda Zambo Deyang Dejin De Ta Kanji Jis Dalo Shir Gewa De Ta Tamchi Rabde Ngo Tesima Shabi Yawa Tamchi Ji Ngowa Kangla Shude Ngaba De Daje Givi Zawa De Genjang Zombo Chushi Rabde Ngor Yi Pandi Joni Tamba Darshan Yi Tanjin Jiu Tamchi Kankam Zang Lejen Kanla Derkil Jongwi Ni Sanje Tamba Tate Jijir De Jawa Tsonghawe Tajo Shinye Ngisi Yawe Ngabe Lanzang Denye Li Kachi Zayang Dobar Majir